Hey everybody, welcome. Hope you guys are having a good day. I'm going to put a comment up in just a second, and we're going to paste that comment. Sorry for my fingers being your way. And then I'm going to go ahead and pin that comment. There we go. Let me move this over a little bit. How's everybody doing tonight? We're going to start with some music, obviously. Welcome. And today is Serene Sunday. You know, Serene Sunday has always been about, how our path in magic and prayer are one, and how and where magic and prayer meet, right? And so, obviously, at the end of the night, I'll give you magic, I'll teach you some magic, and then, obviously, and the magic that I teach you is basically at a level of neophyte, simply because I don't know what level you're on, or what level you're at in your own search, and everybody's own search is different, right? So where I'm at in my search and where you're at in your search are completely different. But I give simple instructions, and one of the things I don't like doing when I ever teach magic is teaching the magic along with the variables. What I try to do, or the formula with the variables, what I try to do is I try to teach you the formula, and you create your own variables. So you can put the numbers into the formula and get different, outcomes, right, from those formulas. So that's that. And then I always give you a Forido, which is the Druidic Mantra, right? I give you that. And then we talk. We just have a conversation on Serene Sunday. And I don't have any notes with me tonight. I usually do, but, sometimes you wing it and you're like, let's see where it goes. And that's fine, too. So, I come to you as Druid conclussion. A lot of people don't know how to say my name. It's Nyo, N-Y-O, like in gnocchi. And it's Klaus, okay? Nyo Klaus de Clon, Neoclaus de Clon. And, some people will call me Nick. I don't really like that, but, I mean, it is one of the things I'm called. I mean, I prefer Druid over anything, but, Druid is obviously the title of respect that you give to the Druid. So, let's talk. So, it's sowing, right? It's sowing. And, what's next? Now what? What do we do, right? Where do we go? And so, when we think about it, on a more deeper level, you go in any of these books written by Elwin or Llewellyn, what I call Llewellyn, but Elwin, whatever the case is, you go in any of these books and you'll find all of these correspondences, all of these magic potions and magic spells, and this is what you got to do, and this is what you got to say, and so you have to behave, stay in line, don't go out of line. Because if you go out of line of woke agenda, especially when you're doing magic, it's going to backfire on you, right? So my point is that, when we, as conservatives, we're more about freedom, right? Freedom of what we can do and where we can go and how we could use our will, right? But if you really think about it, and I usually give talks from the stone, and whenever I give talks from the stone, which is actually the name of the show, from the stone is really about seasonal thinking. But since I haven't been actually out there to the stone, which is the stone that I've already consecrated and sit at and profess from, it's difficult getting out there, number one, because I don't have a car, number two, because when I do get a car, you know, for just a few hours, it's a couple $100. So I decided, you know what, we'll rethink that later. But I did want to talk a little bit about Samhain because, you know, many people have many, when they hear Samhain, right, it stems a picture in their head. So what Samhain means to one person, it means something completely different to another. What I think about Samhain, and I think many things about it, but when I think of Samhain or Samhain, a lot of people hear me saying Samhain and then seeing the word Samhain out there and they're like, well, what's he saying? Samhain is really the way we pronounce Samhain. And Samhain is really about, you know, the last harvest, right? The third harvest. And people are like, well, you know what, after this one, that's it. We don't have anything else. And, you know, they had to salt meats to kind of keep them, right? They had to do a number of things to get ready for the winter. So, if you ever want to know, without reading a book, on what we are supposed to be doing during this time of year, or during any time of year for that matter, as Druids, we look to the trees. When we look to the trees, we find their behavior most adequate, necessary and sufficient to live seasonally and be one with them. Now, you know that as a hard polytheist that I am, I believe in not only the Christian God, I do, and I don't have a problem in that, but I also believe in all of the other gods and goddesses too. So when Samhain comes around, we always think of obviously Lady Morgan, but it's more than that, because when we see her, we think of destruction, right? And this is a time of destruction. Things are dying, things are disappearing, trees are bare, and really, you know, I don't necessarily fully believe that the Morgan, or I really do like to use the terms Lord and Lady when I am talking and addressing the gods and goddesses. So when we talk about Lady Morgan, we usually think of her as destruction, you know, killing, getting rid of. But because we are on an endless cycle of life, I think it's fairly practical of us to work with a particular season or seasons in a way that we are on the same frequency as them, as not only the seasons, but in this case, the trees. So, what is going on with the trees? The trees right now, in time, right now, are doing what? Right now, during this time of year, okay, and in most parts of the country, where we are, at the, at our, not only our location, but where we are above or below the equator, right? I think that it would be best that we think of the trees as being conservative right now, right? The trees are being conservative right now. And for those of you that might not really know why the leaves fall to the ground, the leaves fall to the ground because the trees say, I need to go to sleep. I've been up all year long. I only get one time a year to sleep, right? And so what ends up happening is that tree and the pith, which is the soul of the tree, because the tree has the heart, soul, mind, and spirit. We did a talk on that and compared the Druidic tetrachronomy to a tree and what parts of the tree were what. The pith of the tree is the soul. The pith is that centermost part, right? And so the pith of the tree then is like, look, no, I need to be a bit selfish right now. And it is, if anybody tells you it's not okay to be selfish, they're being selfish. If you don't have time to rest, if you don't have time to take 5, if you will, you're going to go and go and go until you end up in a hospital or dead on the street. We as human beings, not simply as Druids, but just as human beings, me teaching as a Druid, we need a break. We need time. We need to relax. We need to shut our eyes. We need to put our earplugs in if we live in the center part of the city, like me. And I don't know about you guys, but I put a mask on at night, man. I'm like, I need it absolutely pitch black at night. And not one of them cheap ones. I got a really good one. And so, I put my Max earplugs in and I go. And off I am. But more importantly, that's the time that says, okay, I need this time off. I need this time off. At least 6 hours. And if you break 6 into 24, you have 4, and it just so happens that there's 4 quarters in a year. So our day is also equal to 1 year's time. So the trees then begin very conservatively saying, no, can't be liberal anymore. I gotta be conservative now. Alright, I gave and gave and gave, and I freely gave and freely gave and freely gave. I gave fruits, I gave flowers. But now it's time for me to go to sleep. And now it's about me. I did for you, now I must do for me. And in thinking a little bit more deeply about it, perhaps maybe Lady Morrigan isn't necessarily about destruction. Maybe she's about saying to others, leave them alone, I have to put them to bed. Like a mother, right? Like a mother. I have to put my children to bed. So if we think of it in that light, and we think of it in the light of how a tree behaves, maybe Lady Morrigan isn't killing things. She's just putting people to bed. She's putting our trees to bed, our creations to bed. And she's saying it really is. It's about that time, and that's it. And this procedure happens throughout Samhain, the entire duration. And so if we really think of it, the most important thing we could do right now in time and how to celebrate Samhain, and I disagree with people on this, but I don't care. Samhain isn't just 3 days. If people think it's 3 days, they're wrong. The festivity, the festival itself, the holiday itself, the day itself exists, true, and that is the time that we, if you will, celebrate, right? But we, as Druids, don't just celebrate and be like, alright, it's over, now let's get ready for Yule. Halloween's over, let's get ready for Christmas. No. We, as Druids, especially true Druids, Orthodox Druids, say, no, we need to embrace this entire season, the duration of it, and we need to live it. We need to celebrate it. We need to enjoy it. And we need to reap the benefits of it. And when we do that, the shining ones shine bright upon our face. And those gods, or the God of your understanding, looks upon you and says, thank you for respecting my creations. And so when we go ahead and we expand our seasons, you're then expanding, okay? You're expanding our horizon and preparing for what's to come. So now what? What do? Do we just fall asleep and be like, that's it? No. I spoke to a friend tonight who happens to be a witch. And I had asked her, I said, Christine, I said, if you had to summarize someone in 3 or 4 words, she said, easy. Look within. Look within. Because to be completely selfish as a virtue, not as a vice, selfish as a virtue. Being selfish is not a vice. I mean, obviously, there are times where you need to be selfless, right? But this is not the time. This is the time of year, during these next several weeks, to begin to examine who you are and who we are as a people, and who we are as practitioners of the faith, and those of us who happen to be devout to our gods, to the God or gods of our understanding. This is that time to begin to examine us, to say to us, who am I? What am I? How am I? When am I? right? But more importantly, pardon the sirens. No, don't pardon them. Don't pardon them. Never pardon the sirens. What the hell am I talking about? They're sirens. Why am I? And that is the deepest question you can ask. Not necessarily who am I, not necessarily how am I. How are you doing? You okay? Right. Who am I? I'm a man. You know. I'm a caregiver. Right? I'm a druid, right? How am I? How am I? Ask yourself, how are you doing? Speaking to yourself. You know, when am I? When am I? When am I at my weakest points? When am I at my strongest points? When am I sad? When am I happy? What am I? What am I? How am I? When am I? Where am I? Where, not necessarily where are you, obviously, that doesn't make any sense, you know. Where am I? Well, I'm in my bedroom right now. Where am I? Where am I at in my progress? Where am I at in my faith? Where am I at right now as a devout Druid? As an Orthodox Druid, I like to use the term true Druid. And this goes for anyone. But most importantly, why am I? Why am I? And this is the deepest. All the others, easy. You can do that. But why am I? Now that's the difficult part of your homework. Why am I? And when are we doing all this? When are we doing all this? We are doing all this throughout Samhain. We're doing it all throughout Samhain, right? Samhain, do not believe for a fact. Do not believe the books that say Samhain is a day. Samhain is a 3-day period. Don't believe it. Samhain is from the time it occurs, just like every other season, to the time it ends. Right before Yule. You want to go ahead, you want to celebrate, Halloween and do that, trick or treat, decorate your house, but some stuff is cool. But it doesn't end there. It begins there. Why am I a druid? Why am I a witch? Why am I a shaman? Why am I a guru? Why am I an alchemist? Why am I good at doing something? Why am I terrible at doing something. These are the things of Samhain. To look within, to dig deep right through your mouth and in the pith toward your soul. This is truly Druidic. We want you to know that you truly are one that needs to rest right now, to look within right now, to find your inner strength and find out that when this period is over, what will make you great again? When we think about this, when we think about Samhain, and we think about, what it means carrying the light in a turnip, right? Being one with the ancestors, honoring the ancestors, remembering who they are. Because when we look within, we then are looking to them. If we are made in the image and likeness of our gods and goddesses, or our God, if we are made in that image and likeness, then as we look closer and closer within us, we find them. Now, there's many that would say that I am God. I am goddess. I don't necessarily believe that. Maybe I'm not there in my development right now. But I would say that we can find them more clearly during Samhain. Because the veil may not necessarily just be the veil to the other world. That, if you will, Stargate is right here. That Stargate is right here. To dial up and contact every one of your ancestors, from the closest, maybe a grandmom, or a grandpop, a nanny, or a papa, a grandma, or a papa. And beyond that. I always bless my water. So I'm always drinking holy water. So when we think about the idea that we are priests of the old religion, whatever priest you are, whether you're a priest of the Norse, Galti, or you're a priest of the I would say northwestern regions of Europe, Druid, right? Sacerdote, Spain, whatever. Whatever you are and have been called to, this is the time to examine it. The Druids want you to know you. And if there's no better time to do it than now, well then you better think twice before doing something else. You're fuorigedo. your Druid. Druid is the Druidic Mantra, right? Now there's other names for it. A lot of other people call it other things. I like to call it Druid because it really is a repetitive chant, and that's kind of the best word I could get in Gaelic to describe that, right? Repetitive chant. Other people might use other things. I like Druid because it is your chant. And as Druidism focuses, as Celticism focuses on the 3, and Druidism focuses on the 4, I like to get 4 aspects of the Druidic Mantra, the Druid, that might help you, become a better version of you tomorrow than you are today. And that, my brothers and sisters, is truly one of the most important parts of Serene Sunday. I look within. I look within. There's your first 2 parts. I look within. You might even want to just say, look within. I prefer the personal pronoun. I look within. So that I see my ancestors. So that I see my ancestors. There's your I see my ancestors. They're your second 2 parts. I look within so that I see my ancestors. That's your mantra. That's your Druid. That is true Druidism. I look within so that I see my ancestors. For your Druid tonight, your magic, your Druidic magic, what I want you to do, and this is fairly simple if you can, and if you can't, the next time you can, within the next several weeks, get it done. I want you to take a rock, just any rock that you see on the ground. I want you to dig a hole, and I want you to bury it. That's it. Don't ask questions. Don't ask me why. Sorry, don't ask us why. Just do that. Just do that. Just take a rock. No, don't think. Don't read into it. Just do it. Take a rock and bury it. How deep? You want to have it enough where that after you're done covering that rock, okay, you want to make sure that the ground's level again. So, however, I mean, it would depend on the rock, how deep the rock is. You want to bury it 6 times the size. All right. So if it's 1 inch, you want to bury it 6 inches. Okay. If it's 1 inch, like high, the rock, you measure it. It doesn't have to be exact. Just kind of think 6 times that. So the bigger the rock, the deeper you're going to be going, right? And that's your magic. Don't ask what the benefits are going to be. Don't ask why I'm asking you to do this, why we're asking you to do this. Don't do that. You don't ever question the Druid. You just do. Okay? Your choice. You don't have to do any of this. But when the Druids ask, you do. And then you go ahead and you wait, and you see what surprises lie at the end of the sullen sea. Tonight, we talked a little about this idea of sullen, and now what do? Right? We talked about aspects of what we already know about sullen. We asked the intercession of Lady Morgan to help us. Okay. And then we rethought a little bit more deeply as to how, if we act like a tree and follow the tree throughout the seasons, then we understand the seasons much more clearly, and we knew how to behave and act accordingly throughout the seasons. We talked a little bit about the idea that destruction might not necessarily mean destruction, but it might just simply mean putting things to rest, right? We talked a little bit about the idea of the idea of being selfish as a virtue and not as a vice, right? And it's okay to be selfish. And we also then talked about the questions, and that I brought up to you my friend Christine, who happens to be a witch, and I asked her, if you had a couple of words to summarize Samhain, what would it be? And she said, what? Look within. Look within. And as we looked within, we asked ourselves, who am I? What am I? When am I? Where am I? How am I? Why am I? Went over that. And then afterwards, we then began to delve into the Forido, which says this: I look within so that I could see my ancestors, the 4 parts of the Druidic Mantra, the Forido. And the Druid magic tonight is, between now and the end of Samhain, take a rock, whatever size it is, and bury it 6 times. 6 times. It's 6 times its height. So if a rock is 1 inch, you're going to bury it 6 inches into the ground, cover it back up, and make sure that the dirt is flat. And finally, just understand that Samhain is not, nor any of the seasons. Samhain is not a day. Samhain is not a 3-day period. Samhain is a season. You can celebrate those. You can celebrate the day. You can celebrate the 3-day period. You celebrate all that. But we need to understand and believe that as devout Druids, as true Druids, as Orthodox Druids, what we do is we then say that this is about a time that allows ourselves to rest, to take 6 hours out of our day, if you will. And that's it. So thank you very much, and now I shall give you my blessing. wherever you're at, whenever you're at. May the gods bless you. May the goddesses keep you. May the Fae and the Mysticals shine their light upon you. And may your ancestors remain with you forever and ever, well without end. Girawen. Thank you. Thanks for watching tonight. Enjoy your week. And enjoy this festive time of year. Whatever time of day it is, make it great. Girawen. Betshegobra. Arnit. East. Lemogui. Tashefir. Tashefir. Thank you for watching, everyone.